Hi everybody, welcome back to our video sequence on the mathematics major. In this video we're going to look at the core courses for a math major. So let's get over to a nice chart. Okay, so in this chart you see there are 10 math courses. Now 2 of them are in a different color. The 2 in the upper left corner, the problem solving and the computational linear algebra, and that's because they are strictly speaking not yet part of the core. The math department has already voted to make them part of the core in the future, but then it has to go through a university approval process. So for now, these are recommended courses. However, there is a value in taking them. Aside from the knowledge gained by taking the courses, both of those classes will count towards the math cognates. We talked about that in the intro video, that you need 3 cognate courses. And in fact, there's a third one on this chart, which is Math 210, which really is a part of the core now, which also will count towards your cognate. So if you take all 3 of those courses, 180, 107, and Math 210, you're going to satisfy your mathematics cognate. Now before I get into the specifics of these courses, let me tell you a bit how to read this. So the upper left corner tells you the number of the course. So every university course will have some sort of a number. The first digit, roughly speaking, tells you what year you should be taking the class. So 100 and 200 level courses are usually for the first and second year. 300 and 400 level courses would be for the third and fourth year. The other digits after that, don't worry about that so much. A number being, having a, say a 35 versus a 40, it doesn't really tell you which course is more advanced. Only that first digit really does. All right. These arrows also are going to tell you which courses are required to take other courses. So for example, here this 150A points at 107. And that tells you that before you take 107, you should be taking 150A, which by the way is our calculus course. These in the upper right corner, they're going to tell you when the class is offered. So for example, this one is only offered on Fridays, and these Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I'm just kidding. The F stands for fall semester, the S for spring, and the SU for summer. Wouldn't it be horrible the other way? Okay, so that's how you can read these. So you can see, for instance, in your first semester, you might consider taking Math 180, which has no prerequisites at all, and possibly Calculus 1. Now, some of you won't be able to get into Calculus 1 yet. You'll be placed by the ALEC system into pre-calculus, which is Math 125. That's not on this chart because it's not formally part of the math major, but this is okay. If you have to take that, you'll take 125, and then you'll take Math 180. All right, Math 180 is called problem solving, which is supposed to be a really boring title, but it's actually a board gaming class. So we learn mathematical ideas by playing games. Heck of a lot of fun. Now, once you've taken 180 and 150A, well, the 180 you can see it doesn't really lead into anything. It's more of a general knowledge course. But 150A, the calculus course, that leads into 2 different courses. So one of them is a computational linear algebra course. So this is going to teach you some remedial programming in a language called MATLAB, as well as linear algebra. It's possible you've seen some courses where you use matrices before. If not, I can tell you this is a really super course that we developed to be taught by our applied mathematicians. And the idea of the course is to show you how to use the tools of linear algebra, which normally at the lower division level are done in very trivial cases. You do everything by hand. Here we do it on the computer so we can solve interesting questions, like how does Netflix predict what movies you would like to watch next? The other course coming off of Calculus 1 is called Integral Calculus and Differential Equations, although in the catalog right now it'll have a slightly more imposing, intimidating title, Introduction to Laplace Transforms and Fourier Series. So this essentially replaces the normal Calculus 2 course, which is taken by lots of engineers, computer scientists, and physics majors. And instead, you get a course that has been revamped, redesigned from the ground up, and which is only for math majors. Which, by the way, this 180, this 107, and this 210, all new courses, all designed just for you. So these courses will have math majors in them. So you're going to get to know people earlier than you would have if you were just taking sort of the general population calculus courses. Once you've gotten through 107 and 210, then you can move on to 207. Actually, I should tell you, this 207 is another course that we redesigned. So there's a course called 250B, which is, again, a general population calculus course. So this 207 is just for math majors, once again. So it could be you're transferring into the school and you've taken 250B at the community college. That'll line up with the 207. Another course you can take out of 210 is Calculus 3, also called multivariable calculus. So we have not yet designed a course to replace this for just math majors, although that is in the works. Okay, now these are essentially going to fill up most of your first 3 semesters, and then we get down into the bottom half. So this Math 280 is called Strategies of Proof, and that is the first course where you're going to do a lot of serious proof writing, very abstract proof writing. A lot of people come into the math major being very scared of the word proof. They think of it as being a 4-letter word. But what we want is, by the time you graduate from here, that you appreciate proofs, that you're comfortable, that when somebody says we need to prove this, you're okay, right? You can go to your Zen place. So 280 is going to be one of your first opportunities to get really, really good at writing proofs. Next to it is a history of mathematics course. So every single major is required to have an upper division writing class. And so years ago we designed Math 380 to be that upper division writing course for the math majors. So everybody's going to take that. Lots of different faculty members teach this. Depending on who it is, you're going to get a very different perspective, but they're all really fantastic courses. And at the end of the day, it's about building communication skills. It's about learning some history and, yes, even doing some mathematics. At the bottom, we have 2 core courses, which are very serious content courses. So one of them is linear algebra. Now, you'll notice we have linear algebra up here in 107, linear algebra in 207, and linear algebra in 307. 3 times it shows up in this chart, and that's because linear algebra is just that important. No matter which concentration you go into, that's going to be something you want to know more of. All right, so this, though, is going to be the first time you're really doing a lot of proofs in your linear algebra course, building off of the 280 course you took. The other course, 350, Advanced Calculus. A lot of schools also call this Real Analysis. This is essentially going back and doing all the calculus from these first 2 semesters again, but not worrying about the procedural side of things, computing derivatives and integrals, if you know what that means, but rather proving the results that you just used without comment in those classes. So this is typically one of the more challenging courses for our students. However, it's also going to be one of the most rewarding as you get to see the buildup from where you started, Calc 1, Calc 2, Calc 3, till the end here where you now are becoming the master. For those of you who want to become high school teachers, this is where you're going to start to feel comfortable with the calculus that you might be teaching at the high school level. All right. So these are the courses within the math major, and let me just wrap this up with a few comments about it. Okay, so first thing, a quick reminder, those courses 180 and 107, the browns at the top, although they're not required as part of the core right now, absolutely you should be taking those things. Sign up for them right now. They're going to be some of the most fun classes you've had. And they are going to satisfy those cognate requirements. You have to go off and take a chemistry course or an econ course. The other is that there are some substitutes, particularly if you're a transfer student, that are going to be important to know. If you've taken Calculus 2 somewhere else, that will satisfy the Math 210 course in that chart. However, unlike Math 210, which satisfies the cognate, 150B will not, or your Calculus 2 from another school will not. This 210 course is a really different beast. Also, the 107 and the 207. So I already mentioned earlier that 207 replaces Math 250B. Again, if you've taken that at a community college, you don't have to retake 207. However, both 107 and 207 involve a fair amount of computer programming. And so if you've already taken 250B and you want to satisfy the 107, you don't need to go back and take that. Instead, you'll take Math 320, which is a dedicated MATLAB computer programming course. So summarize, either you take 107 and 207, or you'll take 250B and 320. Pick one of those two. But if you have a choice right now, you're a math major just coming in, 107, 207, that's the way to go. All right, we'll see you in the next video.